What's up, you awesome dudes, and welcome back to the channel. We are officially entering the final stages of waiting for the grand release of Red Dead Redemption 2, and you already know how it is. For today we have the official launch trailer, which was revealed mere moments ago, and it's every bit of spectacular as you would have expected. I just saw it, it's 1 minute long, but my god, is it packed with details, brand new footage to go over, new sceneries. We can also see Dutch, Vanderlinde in it, and the rest of the Vanderlinde gang, including Arthur, going through some very hard times. It's probably going to be somewhere towards the end of the story when this happens, at least that's what I'm expecting, but by the looks of it, there is a lot of friction between the gang members. Possibly something very bad has gone down, and we can see this firsthand. In the trailer itself, even though it's short, we can see bank heists, train robberies. I believe at some point we can even see a train being derailed by explosives, which is awesome. We also get to see brand new characters that we have never seen before, and there is a ton more details in this trailer. I'm going to break down every single bit of information that we have, because there is quite a bit. I mean, it's just 1 minute long, but it definitely contains a lot of info to go to, and I am going to start with the very first piece of footage, which is of course the beginning of the trailer. In here we can see Dutch Vanderlinde talking to Arthur about one final score, after which they would get enough money to leave, and we don't really know the context here. Where would they even leave? Is that a location he's referring to, or is he referring to the outlaw life in general? I mean, is he planning to leave that all behind? It kind of makes sense, and it might look like he's planning to do one final score, after which he would be set for life, not needing to be an outlaw anymore, and just basically retiring and probably just planning all of that for the gang itself. And in the next scene he is even asking Arthur what he thinks about that, so he's definitely putting a lot of value on the feedback from his gang members, especially from Arthur, who is like his right hand. And I'm also going to go ahead and say that the scene over here, the first scene, looks absolutely stunning. I'm not really sure if there has been any changes in terms of rendering, but the god rays over here from the sunlight definitely look top notch. I mean, you can see them being individually rendered through every branch and leaf there is on these trees. You of course have the entire camp in the background, we have various tents, we have other gang members in the background as well as the horses. And in the next scene, I'm not really sure if there has been any changes in rendering, but it definitely looks to be higher quality than what we've seen so far, and it kind of makes sense. The final product typically tends to look better in terms of textures, in terms of resolution, compared to how it is in like previous trailers and footage that is shown. But moving on, we have the next scene. We can see the group members riding their horses through a forest, and by the way, I always said this, but the forests themselves look very realistic in this game. I mean, this is probably the only game that has managed to make an accurate representation of forests in it. I mean, I haven't seen any video game doing this so far. It usually looks quite out of place, but here it's very realistic, very believable. The scene is pretty short, but in the next one we see what's most probably a bank heist by the looks of it, and by the grates over here over which Dutch is extended, you can see that this is most probably a bank. I mean, the architecture definitely gives it away. You can even see the pillars in the background. It's definitely an important institution, and it even has a huge safe, so it's not your average shop, but somehow Arthur managed to enter it from the backside somehow, and it seems that they are both ambushing whoever this person is. But yeah, you can also see again how beautiful these god rays are, and they are even rendered from the windows themselves, not just out in the nature. You can see them over here realistically being projected across the room on the desk itself, which brings us into the next sequence where we can see another train robbery or train heists in full progression, and you can see various gang members running alongside the train itself. Also, do pay attention to the scenery itself, and especially to the grass fields, as they are some of the most realistic I've seen so far. Not only are they rendered at huge distances, but even at close-ups you can see each individual piece of grass being rendered separately, which is not something that you see too often. So yeah, typically this is very taxing on your system, but somehow Rockstar Games managed to implement something like this in the game and it looks just amazing. Also pay attention to the fog in the background, and not only is it individually rendered, but you can also see the sun being scattered through it very realistically. You can clearly differentiate between the places where there is shadow compared to where the sunlight lands. But moving on to the next scene, we have the gang members stealing some bags of money. I'm not really sure if this is still on the train itself because I can't really distinguish if it's moving. It seems that they are actually in a different place, because if you look on the ground itself you can see that there is a dock over there, which typically implies it's near a lake or a river. But at the very least we get to see Arthur almost unrecognizable because he has a brand new haircut that I don't think we have seen before. It's on the short side, and he also seems to be quite shaven up. He doesn't have a beard, he doesn't have a mustache, he has a stubble going on but nothing too major, so he must have probably gone to a barbershop recently. Nonetheless, it looks pretty dope. The outfit on him is not something that I've seen before and it definitely looks spectacular, so this is most probably going to be a little bit later into the story. Now moving on to the next scene, we can see Dutch van der Linde with his pistol in his hand, a person being tied down on the ground itself or has been knocked down, I'm not really certain, and Dutch himself is mentioning that he wished things were different, and I'm not really sure what this even means. Is he putting down another member of the gang? Did he get double crossed by another member of the gang? I can't really tell for certain who that is. I don't really think it's another gang member, but yeah, I haven't seen them all from behind how they look, so I'm not really sure what is even happening over here. But yeah, the house in the background is pretty much set ablaze, taking care of business, taking care of snitches and you know whoever double crossed the gang itself, and it definitely doesn't look good because in the next scene you can see Dutch basically aiming his pistol and about to shoot. It's fading out, so we don't really know if he pulled the bullet, but do pay close attention to the beauty of that pistol. It's black with the gold engravings, it's an amazing looking revolver, and yeah, also look at Dutch and how beautiful each piece of clothing and accessory is rendered upon him. So yeah, also very nice. Moving on, we have Arthur having an argument with somebody. We don't really know who it is. It might be with Dutch himself. I mean, we kind of know that Arthur has to make a choice between his own morals and his allegiance to the van der Linde gang and to the camp itself, so he might be arguing with Dutch all along, as it definitely shows later into the video itself. Does that mean that we're going to get to see how the gang breaks up? I really wanted to make this point because we know that the gang itself will split at some point and like members will go in different places. Some of them might even die. We might even get to see some of them dying in this very game. So yeah, it's all interesting to see, but here is when friction starts to show up between gang members and you will see a lot of arguments being made as it progresses. Moving on, we have another scene with Dutch himself turning and looking behind like a complete badass, and he is again referring to just one more job. And in the next scene you can see Arthur raising his voice and arguing that there's always a goddamn train. So yeah, it looks like train robberies are going to be a staple of this game. It's not the first time we see footage of train robberies going down, and it's probably something that we'll do both in our spare time as well as throughout various story points. Moving on, we probably have the continuation of a previous scene. You can see here Arthur jumping down on Dutch's horse, and the train itself is set ablaze. Not really sure if they even managed to steal whatever they were looking for, but it might be a botched operation. It might be something that went wrong and they are probably planning a retreat, though we are not really certain. The next scene shows another campfire gathering. You can see everybody being happy, cheering, dancing, and you can hear somebody in the background mentioning that they don't want to kill all of these folks. He's obviously talking to Dutch himself, and in the next scene you can see this person who I don't think we have seen before shooting his gun and then just mentioning that he only wants to kill Dutch himself. By the looks of it, this might not be another enemy gang, but rather just bounty hunters, because they definitely look very well dressed, and we have seen like bounty hunters looking very well dressed in the previous gameplay trailer. They might be a specialized type of law enforcement agents that will attack you once you reach certain types of wanted levels. I mean, one of the previous gameplay trailers was even mentioning how the bounty hunters in general are much more dangerous than before, and what better way to hunt them down other than with a very badass group of specialized law enforcement, which this person seems to be a part of. So really curious to see who this person is, because it looks freaking awesome. I mean, he definitely looks like a badass to me. Later on we see a bridge with a bunch of cars being completely destroyed and shattered away, with Arthur riding a carriage with 2 horses barging in. So yeah, don't ask me how those horses even survived that explosion and all of the debris resulting from that. I mean, at the very least they should be filled with splinters and whoever else is on the carriage itself with them, but yeah, this is just a video game, so it doesn't have to go fully realistic with this one. Later on we have another angle from the Lemoyne National Bank heist, and we've seen this in the second gameplay trailer. It seems that at some point police officers will start making their way towards there, ambush them, keep them inside, and you can see Arthur over here resting by the window itself. I'm not really sure how he is so exposed, because at this point he could definitely get shot in the head, killed super easily, but hey, it doesn't all have to make sense. Nonetheless, you can see some officers in the background. Obviously they were alerted after the bank heist itself, probably it went wrong. Arthur himself again rocking that short hairstyle. He also has the bandana over his head, a very beautiful red chest piece. I'm not really sure what that thing is even called. It's probably part of his costume. I mean, if you look at the clothing he has, it definitely looks bought from Saint Denis, and if you didn't know this, you can buy a lot of very high-end and more noble looking clothes from rich cities, in this case from Saint Denis itself. Later on we have Arthur being asked about loyalty, and his answer is be loyal to what matters. And here is where I believe we will have story branches depending on what type of person you will be in the game itself. We might even get to see Arthur being the one who abandons the group itself after realizing that it's no longer fitting with his ideals. And I've talked about a train derailing in the beginning of the video, and here it is, a full explosion of the game itself. We're probably going to see a lot more of this. I mean, I'm expecting people to derail all sorts of trains. This definitely looks very interesting, but it's most probably from a mission by the looks of it, because there is a small cutscene playing after that. Moving on, we have Sadie with a cart full of explosives behind her. Most probably this is where they like got all the explosives to derail the train. It might be that, it might be something else, but she is telling somebody to do as they are goddamn told, and there's a lot of friction going on within the gang itself. It seems that everybody has gone insane, everybody is arguing, and I mean, it makes sense because the scenes themselves don't look, well, too pink. The situation itself doesn't look too pink for the gang itself, so this might be probably where things start culminating, with the gang itself starting to break from within. I'm really curious to see if we get to have this in Red Dead Redemption 2. But moving on to the next scene, we have some more footage with the big old grizzly, and as you can see, he's on his 2 legs over here, about to get on some really mean business, and in the later one you can see him basically charging towards Arthur, and this might not end up too well. I mean, he can definitely mangle you, he will completely destroy you, you can die by a bear attack, so don't you worry, and it might look even more gruesome compared to when Leonardo DiCaprio did it. So yeah, just expect one of those scenes to happen in the game if you are planning, of course, to do some wrestling with the bear himself. I'm just saying this. Next on, we have Dutch Vanderlinde, Javier Escuela, and a couple of more gang members in the background. Might be in the city of Saint Denis, but pay attention to their clothing. I mean, they are definitely clothed very high end. These definitely look like very expensive expensive pieces of gear. You can also see some huge, I'm not really sure if that is a cathedral in the background, but it definitely looks to be like one, and they seem to be running on rooftops, and it definitely looks to be like a very busy city. I mean, you can even see the pollution, the air pollution over there is definitely noticeable. If you look in the background, you can definitely see what appears to be smog, and it definitely looks like this. Later on, we see Dutch once more under the full moon yelling, "It is us or him." What that means, I am not really sure. Who are they even fighting at this point? Who is this him he is referring to? Because this definitely makes me very curious. And here is where he starts losing his cool. I don't really think we have seen Dutch losing his cool this way in any of the gameplay footage we've seen so far, but it definitely looks like it. Nonetheless, I really love the night sky in this game. The full moon here is absolutely beautiful, and having not much light pollution going down, you can even see the stars in the background, you can see other galaxies, it's just magnificent. And then we have the final scene with the vast majority of the gang members being engaged in some very heavy fighting. On the background itself, you can see a lot of explosions going down. I'm not really sure if that is cannon fire, I'm not really sure if those were just explosives set out before that, but it might be just cannonballs or somewhere along those lines. And you can see all of the members just engaged in shootouts on their horses. Some of them are using pistols, some of them are using bows, and some of them are using rifles. But here is where the video itself ends, and yeah, the October 26th cannot come soon enough. Everything we've seen so far is absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to play this game. Tell me what's your favorite scene from the brand new launch trailer. Go ahead and post it in the comment section below. Also, aim that like button and subscribe to the channel for more awesome Red Dead Redemption 2 content, and I'll see you guys in the next one, so peace out.